Okay, next we're going to talk about our double team blocks. In teaching our double team blocks, we teach it the same way across the line of scrimmage, whether it's the center guard, the guard tackle, or the tackle tight end, we teach the block the same way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start out first with the ace block. And for us, the ace block is our double team block on the play side of like a power play or a gap play between the center and the guard. Okay. Now the only exception on this is we will use an ace block at times on the backside of an inside zone play versus an odd defense. For instance, here, if we have two solo blocks, we could ace this tackle to the backside backer, even though it's an inside zone play going that way, thinking that we're going to get push on that tackle to cut it behind. Otherwise, all of our double team blocks are front side blocks with somebody pulling, and we're trying to create creases in the gaps. So what we want to do is the lead player on any of our double team blocks is the post block, is the post player. And what he wants to do is he wants to set the defensive lineman on the line of scrimmage and wait for the guy coming, the collecting player coming from the side. He wants to feel him before he tries to pull that guy inside. So we have a post player, and then we have a lead player. The lead player, we use two techniques with our lead player, okay? The first technique is a gallop technique where he's going to gallop with his inside foot up. So the post player is going to set that player, set with his inside foot, set square up on him, okay? Protecting his inside gap. Then we're going to gallop with our inside foot up, trying to hit the hip of this down guy and then come off to the backer. When we hit the hip of that down guy, the post player is going to try to torque him to the inside. Okay, the other technique that we use is just a shuffle step and get hip to hip and move this guy and try to knock him to the inside. The key to all these double teams is that we want to be married at the hips with our two adjacent linemen. We want no space in between. Okay, so we've got to close this gap, allow no penetration, and lift that level one defender up. There's one of two things could happen. One is we feel the momentum from the player coming down to the double team. They can feel his momentum, and he throws him inside, or we just lift him up to the linebacker. So the post player is going to come off, post him. The lead player is going to either use the gallop technique or a shuffle technique. And then when the post player feels that, he can throw the guy inside with his momentum. If not, we can get him hip to hip, marry him, and get him all the way up the field. So let's take a look here at some ace blocks. And some of these will be zone plays, some of these will be power plays. So here's an example of an ace block, and we're using it on the back side of an inside zone play. So we have solos to the front side with the guard and the tackle, and so what we want to do is get movement on this nose, thinking if the ball's handed off, we're going to ace that nose, and it'll cut behind the guard, center and the guard. So that's an example of us using an ace block on a zone play. Same thing here. We're going to have an ace block on an ISO play. Okay, so now we're ace blocking to the Mike backer. Okay, the center is the post player, guards the lead player. Not shuffle stepping here. He should shuffle step inside so he stays square. He's turning the shoulders and dropping, but they're getting good movement on that nose, and he does a good job of squaring off to the linebacker. Now here's an ace block on our counter play. So now we're using a gallop technique here. So the center is the post player. You see the guard with a gallop technique going right to the hip of the nose guard. And then he comes off to the backside backer. And you can see the center kind of turn that guy when he feels the momentum of the play side guard. So the center's posting him. The guard's leading with a shuffle step. With a gallop step. And then he feels that momentum, and he's able to come off to the linebacker. Okay, again, to the left side, and we're going for from a counter play. So we're going to use our gallop technique, post by the center, lead by the guard with the gallop technique. And you can see the momentum of that nose guard when he hits him in the hip. Now, the center's got to do a better job of finishing here, but that's excellent technique on that gallop technique right here. and then he comes up to his backer. Okay, this is a zone play where we're acing the backside nose. And what happens on this is we're pressing that ball. We move the nose to the play side A, giving the back that cut behind, and then the guard up to the play side backer. Using gallop technique there also. And that's an ace block. Our next double team is a deuce block. And a deuce block for us is a block between our play side guard and our play side tackle. Again, it's used mainly on power plays and counter plays. The technique on the deuce is the same as we teach on the ace. We're going to have a post player, and we're going to have a lead player. Again, the post player is going to set with his inside foot to protect his inside gap. He wants to square up as much as he can on the down lineman. And then the lead player is either going to use shuffle footwork and get hip to hip, or he's going to use gallop footwork and get hip to hip and try to distort this player over to the A gap. If he wants to stay in that gap and we're hip to hip, we should be able to move him up the line of scrimmage to the linebacker depth. If we're galloping and we do a great job of getting this guy's near hip, this post player should feel him and be able to ricochet or throw him with his momentum to the inside. So again, we teach these techniques the exact same way, whether the ace or the deuce. So let's look here at some deuce blocks. We have some really good clips, quite a few clips here of some different deuce blocks. And what we're looking for on a deuce block now, it's gap responsibility. Okay, so yeah, we want to deuce this guy, but basically you're responsible for the A gap, you're responsible for the B gap. So anything that happens from a movement standpoint, you end up picking those players up. So here's a great job. We're coming off, looking to ace block it. We're using gallop technique. The guy slants outside. Great reaction here by the guard. Watch the reaction of the guard to the run-through linebacker, because that's the guy they're deucing to, and so they want to see that and recognize that. It's a great job of him coming off here. Excellent job coming off on the deuce block. Could get a better job of that tackle covering the guy up, but certainly the reaction of the guard was outstanding. Okay, here we go. We have another deuce block here. We're using gallop footwork. The post player is the guard, who's a little high, but you can see the momentum. This is great targeting by the tackle. On his gallop footwork here, he hits his target. And again, the target is the hip. Because if you hit the hip, he's going to lose balance and he's going to go inside. So you've got to make sure that you're low and you see that target area, and you can see his momentum throw that guy inside. And now he's in position to work up to the backer. And he's in great position there. Okay, now this is more of our shuffle footwork. And again, they're working, and we spent a lot of time when I was at Texas A&M coaching, working on getting hip to hip. Okay, so they're getting as tight as they can here, hip to hip, and destroying the three technique. Do a nice job. You can see the tackle get his hip. You can see the momentum of that guard feeling it, that post player, and ricocheting him inside, and the tackle's in position to come off to the play side backer. Again, they're not galloping here. They're working more shuffle footwork and trying to get hip to hip. Being hip to hip on all these blocks is the key. Here's a great job here of these guys getting married to the hip. Okay? An excellent job here. Closing that gap, pushing their hips into each other, and moving that three technique. That's an excellent deuce block. Okay, now we're going to get a deuce block here to the right side. Now we got movement again. Got to run through backer, so we can't stay on the double team. Great job of recognizing that, making sure we're taking care of the defender in the A gap and the B gap. Here we get we're starting out with a deuce block here, and the three technique leaves. We've got the nose crossing the center's face. Now, as I said before, ultimately, the guard has the A gap and the tackle has the B gap. What we teach the tackle is if that B gap player leaves, we're going to go ahead and stay with him, okay? The guard has now got to change direction and come back inside and protect that A gap. Center will ride him off as long as he can. We've got a hinge block, but the center shouldn't stay on as long as he is here. He should one-arm him to the guard. Good reaction by the guard. And so the deuce turns into a solo for the guard and a solo for the tackle. Okay, same type of thing here. He goes, the guard is going to have a deuce to start with, but he knows by the width of the alignment, okay, and the movement of that linebacker that the defensive lineman is going to cross face. This guy's coming over here, they're going to run some type of cross plug. Somebody's got to come to this gap, and he knows he has that A gap. Okay, so because of alignment here and alignment of that linebacker, he's anticipating and reacting to come down to the A gap. Tackle ends up being in the A gap by himself, or the B gap by himself here, and does a nice job. Now it's a play where we were handing the ball off the opposite way. The quarterback could keep it here, and then we'd have the counter blocked. Okay, here we are again. We got the deuce block to the front side. Excellent job. A and B gap. Climbing up to the linebacker, have him sealed. It's an excellent play. Okay, we're going to get a double team to the left here. Okay, so here is a deuce block with gallop footwork. Momentum of the guard, feels that tackle coming off, throws him inside, comes up clean to the linebacker. Okay, here we go again. Deuce block to the left, gallop technique, post by the guard, gallop technique. If you hit the hip, the defender's going to go inside, and the guard just has to feel that momentum, and then he can help throw him into the inside. Tackle's in position to come off to the backer. Our next double team block is our tray block, which is our combination block on the play side between the tackle and the tight end. Again, when we're doing this block, it's taught the same way as our ace and our deuce. It's just one more player removed out, and so our tackle now becomes the post player and our tight end becomes the lead player. But they're, again, working their double team, and now they're blocking the B and the C gap on their way to the backside linebacker. So again, it's a gap blocking scheme between our tackle and our tight end, sealing the B and the C gap, working a double team to the backside, with the tackle being the post player and the tight end being the lead player. Let's take a look at some of these clips here on some tray blocks. So we got a tray block here to the left. Tackle is patient with a shuffle step inside. Allows the defender to come into them. They're closed hip to hip. They're using more shuffle footwork here, but getting hip to hip. Key to be hip to hip and stop the penetration of 97 here as they work their double team to the backside backer, which is 36 here. Okay, excellent job by those two. Okay, now we're going to get a tray block to the right. Again, that tackle should protect his inside, which he's doing here. Tight end's got to close the gap. They could do a better job here working hip to hip before this tackle comes off, but it's not too bad right here. Tight end needs to cover him up more. Tackle's in position to get off to the linebacker. If I were coaching the tight end, I'd try to get my hat right down the middle of this guy so that I have a better control of him and give a two-way go. Okay, now we got a tray block here to the offensive left. Again, the tackle is the post player, but it's a wide end, so he's going to take a controlled step inside, protect his inside, work vertical as a post player. Tight end's coming down. Again, we like to keep our shoulders square, but they're getting good movement and momentum here. there's truly not the backside backer they're working to is actually number 50. So we would like the tight end here to get up quicker and come off to number 50. Again, from a technique standpoint, I like to try to keep both guys as square as I can on any double team block. But again, we teach it the same way. And the key to the whole thing on all double teams is being married hip to hip and getting level one movement before we come off to the linebacker and understanding that you protect your inside gap.